Reports coming out of the United States of America say a man's been shot dead by federal agents in Minneapolis. The shooting comes 2 weeks after a woman was shot dead by an ICE agent amid widespread protests over US President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. Well, for more on this, we're joined by veteran US diplomat, political analyst and founding associate editor of Daily Maverick, Brooks Spector. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Now, this all seems to be getting quite out of control. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, good evening. It is quite sad. The current administration's crackdown on, depending on how you like to phrase it, illegal immigrants or undocumented aliens, has gotten to a stage where a significantly militarized body of federal officers, ICE, as it is called, are approaching individuals. They're doing traffic stops, they're occasionally breaking into people's homes, and they're generally speaking carrying out raids on people who may or may not be in violation of immigration laws, and in some cases are American citizens or permanent residents or subject to currently pending appeals for asylum. The militarization by the ICE officers, though, is really something both unprecedented and awful to behold. And what we now quite clearly see is a constantly evolving cycle of there are people who get arrested or harmed or killed. There are protests. The protests are then attacked by the ICE agents, and that leads to more violence. And there seems to be no end to it, just as there is no plan B for the ICE agents to come up with tactics that do not look like police raids on random citizens and random individuals. The particular case that just happened, there is some dispute as to whether or not the individual had a weapon himself and had aimed it or shot it at the ICE officers. That's not clear or known for sure, but regardless, they do not have the authority, should not have at least the authority to shoot to kill individuals who may or may not be threatening somebody in certain circumstances. Certainly the woman the other week who was shot while she was in her car, there's very little evidence to indicate that she was using the car as a quote-unquote weapon, and much indication that she was trying to leave the scene of the demonstration and the ICE crackdown of those people. So this, the way this is being handled, yes, it's very sad that people are being shot, wounded, killed, but even worse, in my estimation at least, is the devastation that is being handed to all of the normal civil rights that Americans are supposed to have, not the least of which is you don't simply show up and try to drag somebody out of their house on suspicion that they might possibly be an illegal immigrant, which is what happened with that other individual who was dragged out basically wearing his underwear and a pair of slippers in the middle of the Minnesota winter, which is, if you've ever been to Minnesota, it's quite a daunting thing, even if you're dressed for warmth. But part of this now also is that these ICE officers are operating in opposition, in effect, to the local police in the city of Minneapolis, as well as the state police for the state of Minnesota. And this is a conundrum that simply is going to have to be resolved, or there are going to be more incidents of this, and then there will be more people who are shot and more people who likely will be killed.
Brooks, tell me what ordinary Americans, I hate saying that word ordinary, nobody's ordinary, everybody's special, but what are ordinary Americans saying about what's going on there?
Well, the polls that I have seen say that a majority of Americans, ordinary or extraordinary, let's put it that way, oppose the kinds of crackdown that is happening with the ICE officers by significant margins. I think most Americans would probably agree that illegal immigrants do not deserve the right to be in the country, but that's very different than saying any measures, any and all measures are appropriate in dealing with such people, and that's what the public opinion polling seems to indicate. And the numbers are pretty compelling. It's not a narrow gap; it's a substantial one.
Does President Donald Trump have the support of Republicans?
I think, and I haven't looked at the inner cells of that polling, but I suspect that among non-official Republicans, that is not people who are in elective office, I suspect that it is narrower, but still a majority of people are unnerved by what is happening. Among official Republicans, a lot of them are trying very hard to avoid having to say anything about it at this point, precisely because they can read the polls as well. And there is, as there always is in America, an election coming up in November of this year. And every member of the House of Representatives, their seats are up for election or re-election if they're incumbents. And a third of the Senate is also up for election or re-election. And so reading the tea leaves, I suspect a lot of Republicans in office are trying very hard to figure out a way to not support this kind of militaristic ICE police activity, even as they say, as most people do, that the many illegal immigrants have to either be naturalized in some manner or deported from the country. So I mean that's their dilemma now as Republican politicians.
Spector, thank you so much for chatting to us this evening on what's happening in the United States. And that was veteran US diplomat, political analyst, and founding associate editor of Daily Maverick, Spector.